to NocBro Nation.
Welcome back, guys. Jarrell here.
And I'm Josh, and today we're here to have a discussion of an article recently found on comicbook.com, and that is 5 things from the Walking Dead comic that we're sad were not in the show, and in the TV series, 5 things that we're glad, right?
Yeah, so this is basically coming from CBR.com, and we're going to give our thoughts of if we agree or disagree. So what they're doing is giving 5 details from the Walking Dead comics that they felt were sad that we did not get to see in the TV show.
Yep.
And 5 other things that they're glad that they did not even show.
Yep.
So we're just going to give our opinions on if we agree with their thoughts on this and if we disagree. So guys, this will contain spoilers for some of the Walking Dead content if you haven't been reading. It may also contain spoilers of future storylines that they could do, and we're excited to go over this.
Yeah, and so before we start, I do want to preface that this is in no order.
Yeah, it's not a ranking
and
order.
also the opinions that we're saying are in regards to what the writer himself felt when he developed this story on comic book.
Yep, so they mentioned that they put this strong point, they took the strong points from the original story that sadly never got to be played out in live action, along with the things that did not see the light of day. Since some events required certain characters to be alive, but since they've died on the show, these also have been included in the cut list. So we'll be going over all that.
All right.
So the first one.
Let's start, and this one's a sad one, and that is Andrea's true characterization.
That is 100% correct.
Yeah.
In the TV show, Andrea's character was absolutely terrible. She was very afraid. She was indecisive. She got a little bit of it back later on, but it did not help.
She slept with the governor.
Yes. She became the governor's girlfriend.
God, man. And slept with Shane.
Yeah.
Like,
so
those 2 things right there had me like, what the is going on?
Yeah, guys, so in the comics, now, in the show, they gave some of her comic characterization to Michonne and also to Sasha. But in the comics, Andrea was she was brave, she was selfless. She's what gave Rick more confidence to become the leader he became.
Yeah.
She was very good with a sniper rifle, and she ended up marrying Rick. Now, of course, in the show, that didn't happen as we know of, so part of her story, in a way, went to Michonne, but we were so upset about what they did to Andrea in the show.
You're going to get crushed.
Yeah.
Your comic book readers are going to crush you. They didn't actually get married in the comic. They were assumed married. Tell me the wedding scene.
That's right. They were assumed married. Yes,
they were basically the common law marriage, right? They to them they were married.
Yeah, they didn't do a wedding or anything like that. Yeah, that's right. I mean, well,
to
me they were married.
I'm just teasing.
But yeah, her character was just destroyed.
It was completely different on the comic book, and actually, spoiler alert. Well, this isn't really a spoiler. It's spoiler if you are planning on reading the source material. But she dies in the Whisperer War. And that was one of the saddest moments in the comic book because of the way that character was developed. It crushed your heart.
It did. It was sad. So the next one is one that was glad to get cut is Dante and Maggie's romance. So guys, Maggie's journey has gone very far. She went from the farm to becoming the leader of Hilltop to becoming the leader in the Commonwealth in the comic books. And she was able to move on and have a romance with somebody to kind of, move on from Glenn. And she had a child later on. And in the show...
That was Glenn's child.
And that was Glenn's child. But in the TV show, of course, because Lauren Cohan was gone, making her one TV show, Angela Kang did say that they had to rewrite Dante's story because they were going to originally do that, but they changed it. Now, I actually am glad because I prefer what they did to Dante's story in the show.
Mine's kind of my is twisted. So I'm with you that I'm glad, but the only reason why I'm glad is because of what I've seen happen to Dante in the show. Like I'm actually glad they didn't do it because he was a terrible person. But am I glad that they cut out the romance between the two? Actually, because there just wasn't much there. I mean, they had a relationship, but that's about it. Like, they didn't spend too much time on their relationship in the comic book.
Not in the comics. And it would be nice to see her move on in the show, but I think what gives her drive and what gives her, kind of makes her character a better leader is she's not worrying about a relationship. She still is in love with Glenn, and the thought of Glenn is what drives her. That's what drives her to want to kill Negan badly.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, then she forgave him and all that, but she still holds Glenn dear to her heart. So I think that's really good for the show. But it would be nice to see her have a relationship, and maybe she'll get with Alden at some point.
Ooh. Alden is the new Dante.
Exactly.
All right, so number 8 is a sad moment that we will never get to see on the show, and of course, that is Negan's deeper connection with Carl.
Guys.
Yeah, man.
In the comics,
this
man.
sucks.
In the comics, I mean, Negan and Carl had a big relationship. Carl had some issues with Rick because at first Carl wanted to kill Negan badly, and he was pissed at Rick that he didn't do it. But as Negan was sitting in his jail cell, Carl went down many times and talked with him. Talked to him about everything. Mm-hmm. And we got to see a little bit in the show, when Carl went to the sanctuary and killed a bunch of his dudes.
Yeah, that was straight up out of the comics. And matter of fact, they have a cover for that. 103.
Can't remember.
I could be wrong.
Remember, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, that was, it was great to see the dynamic between those two characters. And I thought that on the show, they did that perfectly. I loved that dynamic between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and, wow.
Chandler Riggs.
Thank you.
With the limited time they had.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I'm sad because it could have blossomed into something amazing, after the events of All Out War.
Yeah, if they would have kept Carl around.
Yeah.
So the next one is one that they were glad got cut out, is Lydia's traumatic experience. So guys, if you're not aware, in the comics, it was completely changed in the show, but in the comics, Lydia had a very brutal upbringing in the Whisperers, and they don't even touch this about the Whisperers in the show. But in the comics, the Whisperers have a very weird issue with women. They basically take what they want. There's a lot of rape. There's a lot of rape, and Lydia was raped in the comics. She talked about it with Carl. Now, of course, it was changed in the show to where some similarity, not going to say some similarities, but she's kind of abused by her mother, verbally, physically by her mother, which is still a traumatic experience. But I don't think that the comic book version really would have done well on the show.
It definitely would not have translated to the show at all.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see rape, right? But I'm kind of indifferent with this.
But
the reason why I'm indifferent is, look, I'm not condoning that at all, and I do not. Again, no one wants to see an abuse of a woman. But that particular moment in the comic books is actually what made Negan make the decision that he does, the decision that we're probably going to see eventually in the show. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason why, is because Negan was so against the rape and abuse of women that he was like, you're done.
Yeah. So we've already had the spoiler alert on this, guys, and we've mentioned in other videos. So a potential future storyline that could be happening this season is, from the comics, Negan actually sees a woman being raped by Whisperers. He goes to stop it. Alpha tells him, this is our way. This is what we do. And that's one thing that led Negan to kill Alpha when they were alone together. Yeah. He cut her head off.
Yeah. And I just think that scene, again, it would not have played well on TV.
No.
But I think that scene really established that Negan wasn't the brutal killer that we've seen that we saw in issue 100 of the comic book.
Right.
Like, it really humanized Negan.
It did. And so I think they might, of course, they're going to change it up for the show. Maybe he sees something else that he's not cool with, and if we get to that point.
Well, he did see Brandon kill a mother and child, and
right. But he's not a Whisperer, but
correct.
But I understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's just he's not.
They're mixing it up in small ways.
Right.
The more they can humanize Negan in the show, they're taking every opportunity to do that.
Exactly. So, next one. Go ahead.
Sad to see that Heath's role in the community is not what it is in the comic book.
In the show.
In the show. Sorry.
Yeah. Heath had a very big role in the comic books. He was a fighter for the community. He was a supply runner, and I know. But I mean, in the comics he had a very big role, but in the show, not very much. And of course he's missing right now. We're led to believe that he is with Jadis, in CRM, because she sold him to CRM. But I like the character.
Did he have another role?
Who?
The actor that plays Heath. Did he have other projects going on?
He had something come up, and I'm not sure what his contract status was.
I'm just curious because I mean I have not seen the actor. Look, he may have been in something that I just haven't been, hasn't been on my radar. But I haven't seen him in anything, and why not bring him back? Find some way to bring him back. Yeah. And he better be in the show, the movie.
The movie would be great. Yeah, so I mean, Heath is another character. There's a lot of people that are like, where's Heath? Where's Heath? We would love to see him, and we kind of wish that we got to see him more on the show, especially with the Whisperer War coming up. So, one that we do both agree that we are glad they left out is Rick's arm getting cut off.
Now, some of you comic book fans will probably be like, "What are you talking about?" But honestly, I didn't like that even in the comic book. Did you?
Not so much. Yeah. In the comics, guys, during kind of the beef with the governor cuts Rick's arm off. And, through the rest of the comics, that's just what we learn to see is him without his arm. Mm-hmm. Learning how to deal with things, learning how to, do proper things with one arm. Exactly. And in the show, I mean, we got very close to it. Negan was about to cut it off. But
they teased it so many times.
Actually, I'm sorry. Negan wasn't going to cut it off. Rick was going to do it himself.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it would have worked. Plus, they'd have to do a lot of CGI. You know? Aaron has his arm cut off, but guess what? He has a metal arm. They don't have to use CGI for that.
Yeah. So, my argument on this is I don't know. I always want my hero to be untouchable, right? To be indestructible. And that moment in the comic books was kind of like, well, he's not indestructible, but he's still who he is. Mm-hmm. But I'm just glad I didn't see it in the show.
I just don't think it would have worked very well. Yeah. So,
all right. Number 4, sad to see the Walker's brutality. So in the comic books, we get to see more brutal scenes from walkers that we don't get to see on the show.
Not much anymore. Yeah. We kind of did early on in the seasons of The Walking Dead. But if you think about walkers now, guys, on the TV show, it's almost like they're just there. And they're so easily killed. They're not as afraid of walkers much anymore. Yeah. In the beginnings of the show, they were afraid. Because they were still learning what these things are, how to navigate around them. When they went to the big cities, like when they were in Atlanta, they were deathly afraid because they were everywhere.
I was telling Jarrell this, when you were reading the first issues of The Walking Dead, issues, when Donna died, I think that was issue 3 actually. They went to a different community. They found a different community of houses. They went into a house and one had come out of a closet and attacked Donna. And you're reading this and you're scared. Yeah. You're not numb to walkers. You're first seeing it. And it just didn't, as time has gone on in the show, we don't get to see stuff like that. We're used to it like they are. Yeah. And that's normal, right? I guess.
Yeah. It's the overall, what the writer about this is saying is that there's just, not that the walkers aren't brutal. It's just, we are not seeing as much interaction with our group being deathly scared of walkers. Now, I know they're dealing with the Whisperers right now. That's a different thing. But if you think going back to season 1 all the way to now, think of the scenes that you remember where you were deathly afraid yourself of, oh my God, walkers are everywhere. Yeah. They're creeping me out. They're creeping them out. Are they going to survive? We just haven't been seeing that over the course of the number of seasons where walkers are just they're easily killed and they're,
But to
navigating them around.
To play devil's advocate to that is we're 10, 15 years into the apocalypse?
10.
And as time has gone on, these things have become more frail. Conditions have applied to them, such as weather, them being in the situations that they are stuck on something.
Numbers kind of dwindling down.
Yeah,
unless people are hoarding
to be honest, the show has kind of slower than what it should have done.
Right.
Eliminated walkers.
Right. And that's what happened in the comic books towards the end. Towards the end of the comics, there was a big time jump to where they mentioned that walkers, the population has dwindled. All they're really dealing with now is some scattered around and when people die.
Yep.
So they're not as the population will eventually dwindle down.
Yep.
So one of them that we both agree are glad that they cut out was Sherry's turn towards villainy. So in the comics, guys, Sherry actually wants to, she actually takes over, or she wants to establish her role as being the leader of the Saviors. And she had some beefs with Rick Grimes. Rick Grimes actually does kill her in the comics. Accidentally, over a beef. But I don't think it would have worked in the show. Her taking over the Saviors? No. I mean,
No.
the Sanctuary, even the comics, lasted the entire comic series. John took over the Sanctuary, not the Saviors, but he still had people there. But Sherry wanted to basically rule with an iron fist and still do Negan's ways.
Yeah. Another thing about Sherry in the comic books is they didn't really go over her character when she was a wife of Negan as much as they did in the show.
Yeah.
They did a little bit in the source material, but in the show, they made Sherry a little bit more vulnerable than I think she was in the comic books.
It was more of a love story with her and Dwight than her wanting power and anything else. Yeah. It was more of a woman who did not want to be married to this man. Yeah. Not Dwight, Negan. And so, yeah, I think it was good they kind of left. They didn't give us
Absolutely
that piece
agree.
Of it. So, ooh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this one's a tough one. Obviously, we agree with this one. I think almost everybody would agree with this one, and that is sad that there is no future Carl.
Yeah, from the comic book source material, Carl is the one.
Yeah,
the man.
Guess what, guys? Carl's in issue number 1, and Carl's in issue 193.
Yep.
He makes it the entire series.
Yep.
He is, you could argue, the main antagonist of the story, him and his father.
Yep.
And unfortunately, for whatever reason, it wasn't the reason of the actor. Let's straight out say it. It was AMC and the people running the show decided to kill off Carl.
Yep. In the comics, he marries Sophia. He has a daughter. And he continues to live out his father's dream. And everyone is working well in the civilization. They're expanding west, and it was awesome in the comics.
Yeah, it's actually a really beautiful end to a series, to a story. Yeah. And I highly encourage, if you guys haven't read the source material, do read it. And because when you get to that final issue, it is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it would have been great to see Carl continue on in the show, but also we would have ran into a problem if Chandler Riggs was still on the show. Would Andrew Lincoln have still left? A lot of people thought Andrew Lincoln left because Chandler Riggs left. Yes, he wanted to be with his family as well, but I wonder if that decision ramped up because Chandler Riggs left. If he would have stayed, maybe Andrew Lincoln would have stayed a little while longer, but we don't know. We will never know that.
And let's be clear, we don't truly know, but I think it was the way that Carl was killed off on the show.
Yeah.
From the information we gathered, and we don't want to make a video about this topic, but he was told that he would be staying. He bought a house close to filming, so he was under the full intentions that he would be remaining on the show. And I think they kind of did him a little wrong in the way that went down, and maybe that rubbed Andrew Lincoln the wrong way.
Yeah. So the last one, guys, which they mentioned is glad they cut out, and I kind of agree with this as well, is Carl and Lydia's relationship. So in the comics, Carl and Lydia have a relationship, but it's not a relationship that we might think of all nice and good, like Maggie and Glenn. Lydia, for coming from the Whisperers, she was a very manipulative person. In a way, I don't think she treated Carl very well. She was always trying to get Carl to jump through hoops for her. She was always, the way that she interacted with him, Carl was wanting to be with her, but she would just act in a way that was just kind of standoffish a little bit. But she still cared for him.
I don't know if I'm fully with you on that.
Yeah.
I see your point.
Yeah.
But we kind of have to take Lydia's development up to that point, right? Into consideration. This girl was literally raped.
Yeah.
So I think that had to play a big role. But you're right. It wasn't this deep in love relationship. It was a different type of relationship.
I mean, they're young kids.
It was Carl's first.
Yeah, Carl's first. Yeah. I would say one thing we would have loved to see is,
don't say it,
her licking his empty eye socket, which she does in the comics. But I did like. at first I was like, what? Lydia and Henry? What are we talking about? I want Carl there. And in the end, it was fine. You know, it was good for the show.
It was good because they mixed her up as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
The backstory. Yeah.
I think if that story would have followed the comic book storyline and then given to Henry, you would have been like, no way, this isn't working.
This dude this dude won't be able to handle it.
No, absolutely not.
Because in a way, Lydia in the show, after coming to the group, she was very broken down. You know, she was broken, basically. Lydia, in the comics, was still a pretty strong girl. When she was sitting in jail and Carl was interrogating her,
even after going through what she went through,
she was strong. Like, she didn't.
Now, she had her moments because
she had her moments.
It took Carl to really get her used to living the way that they were.
To open up. Yeah.
But that's kind of my argument is they were in a way kind of made for each other because they used each other's relationship to make it stronger. And I guess that's kind of what was wrong about it is they really used each other.
They used each other.
Maybe for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and in the comics, I mean, it was Lydia who gave him the confidence to actually take his eye patch off and just let it go.
Just let it hang.
Just let it go. It was because of Lydia, you know? And it was just... I do agree with this. I mean, I kind of 50-50 on it in a sense. I would have liked to have seen it in the show.
I would have liked to seen it with Chandler Riggs.
Yes, but I'm glad that they didn't. In a way, I'm glad they didn't do certain aspects of it.
Yeah.
So, I thought this was really cool. I'm glad that I came across this. That I think this is a really good, a lot of ideas to think about of certain things that were cut from the comics that probably would never have worked.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole video on honorable mentions or possibly our list, but I mean, obviously this was this particular writer's list of things that we're glad and not so glad to be, involved in the show. But you're right. I mean, there are plenty of opportunities for the things that we saw in the source material that we would love. That we're sad is never going to make it.
Yeah, so we're hoping we get to see some more the events that are going to be coming up in the Whisperer War. We're hoping to see some of these comic book storylines are going to be happening. I think we will be, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I would love for this to happen, guys. If you loved this video, comment below. Let us know a moment in the comic books that you are sad that is never going to make it to the show.
Yes, and also let us know of one that maybe they did put in the show that didn't really turn out as well as you thought. Yeah. So make sure you comment, guys. Smash the like button. Follow us at NocBro Nation on Twitter and Facebook. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. And stay tuned for more. I'm Jarrell.
I'm Josh.
We're NocBro Nation. We're out.